Welcome to the Temple of the Human Heart. I'm Yisra'el Apriale, and tonight, let's talk about it. He walked away from religion. Now what? Not the polished answer, not the just pray about it answer, not the you'll find your way back answer. I mean, the real part, the part where you're sitting there like, okay, I left, I questioned, I couldn't unsee what I saw, but now I don't know where to stand because nobody talks about that part. They'll warn you not to leave. They'll judge you if you do, but they won't tell you what happens after. And for me, that space after leaving wasn't freedom at first. It was silence. It was confusion. It was realizing I didn't even know how to hear myself without someone else's voice in my head telling me what was right, what was wrong, what I should believe. I didn't leave because I wanted to be lost. I left because something in me knew this isn't it. But nobody gave me a place to land. No safe space to ask questions without being corrected. No space to say, this doesn't feel right, without being told I was a problem. So tonight, that's what this is. Not a sermon to pull you back into something, not a performance. This is a space to tell the truth about what happens when you walk away and how you begin to return, not to religion, but to yourself. And I want to start with me because I didn't come to this from a book. I came to this from experience. There was a point in my life where I realized I was doing everything I was taught to do, saying the right things, showing up the right way, believing the way I was told to believe. But something still felt off, not loud at first, just a quiet feeling that kept showing up like, this doesn't feel true. And I tried to ignore it. Because when you've been taught that questioning is dangerous, you don't question, you correct yourself. So I stayed longer than I should have. I pushed the feeling down. I told myself I just needed to pray harder, understand better, be better. But that feeling didn't go away. It got stronger until I had to be honest with myself. I didn't feel safe being real in those spaces. I didn't feel like I could ask why without being watched. I didn't feel like I could say, this doesn't make sense to me without being corrected or being judged. And that did something to me because now it wasn't just about religion, it was about losing trust in my own voice. So when I finally stepped away, I thought I was going to feel free. But what I actually felt was nothing. No structure, no clear direction, no voice telling me what to do anymore. Just me. And I didn't even know who that was yet. And that's the part nobody prepares for you. Walking away is one thing, but learning how to stand on your own, learning how to hear yourself again, learning what is actually true for you, that's a whole different journey. And that's why this space exists, because I know what it feels like to have questions and nowhere safe to take them. I know what it feels like to want truth, but not control. And I know what it feels like to realize that what you were taught about God, about Christ, about yourself might not be the full story. So we're going to do, I'm sorry, what we're going to do here is not throw everything away, but go back and actually look. Look at the teachings, look at the texts, look at what was said and what was added. And most importantly, learn how to return to ourselves in the process. So let's ground this in something real. Because a lot of us were taught that if something doesn't feel right, it's because we're wrong. That questioning means doubt. That doubt means weak faith. And weak faith means you're drifting away from God. But I want to offer you something different tonight. What if that feeling, that quiet, this isn't right, wasn't you losing your way? What if it was you waking up? Because here's what I had to come to terms with. I wasn't struggling with God. I was struggling with what I had been taught about God. And those are not the same things. When you actually look at the teachings of Jesus Christ, he wasn't controlling people. He wasn't shutting down questions. He wasn't building systems that made people feel small. He was constantly pulling people out of systems. He was telling people the kingdom is within you, not out there, not controlled by someone else, not something you earn by performing, within you. But that's not what most of us were taught. We were taught to look outside of ourselves for approval, outside of ourselves for truth, outside of ourselves for permission. So, of course, when you start turning inward, it feels wrong at first because you were never taught to trust that space. So, the discomfort you felt, that wasn't rebellion. That was the moment your inner knowing started bumping up against what you were taught to accept without question. And instead of being guided through that, most of us were told to silence it. But here's the truth I had to learn the hard way. You cannot return to God if you are disconnected from yourself, because the first place truth speaks is within, not through fear, not through pressure, not through performance, through awareness, through stillness, through that same voice you were told not to trust. This is why when you start reading some of the older texts, the ones that didn't make it to the final version of what we were handed, you start to see a different message. Not a message of control, but a message of awakening. Not to be afraid and obey, but to wake up and remember. And that changes everything. So if you're in that space right now where you've walked away and you're not sure what comes next, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not lost. You're in the process of remembering. And yes, it feels uncomfortable because you're learning how to stand without someone telling you where to stand. You're learning how to hear yourself without someone translating it for you. That is not failure. That's the beginning. And what we're going to do here is take this step by step. We're going to look at the teachings. We're going to separate truth from conditioning. And we're going to rebuild not from fear, but from clarity, from awareness, and from within. So this is a temple of the human heart, not a place you come to perform, not a place where you have to already have it figured out, not a place where your questions get silenced. This is a space where you come to return to your awareness, to return to your voice, to return to the truth that's been underneath everything you were taught. On Sunday nights, we slow this down. We take the teachings, yes, from the Bible, from Gnostic texts, from the writings that still carry the message of awakening, and we actually look at them, not through fear, not through control, but through understanding. You're going to be challenged here. You're going to hear things that make you pause, that make you think, that might even make you uncomfortable. But you're also going to begin to recognize yourself again. And that's the work. Not becoming someone new, but remembering who you were before you were told who to be. So if you've been looking for a space where you can question, where you can breathe, where you can heal from what didn't sit right, you're welcome here every Sunday night. If you want to stay connected, learn more, or go deeper, you can find me at www.awakenandreturn.com. You can also reach out directly at info@awakenandreturn.com. I'm here to help walk this, not just talk about it. This is the temple of the human heart, and the work is awakening. I'll see you next Sunday.